Hollow Knight is a game that draws heavy inspiration from two styles of games. One of those is my favorite game of all time, Dark Souls, and you might not realize that it does so until you're far into the game. For the record, I think this is a game played best knowing nothing about it. You should do your first playthrough blind, and only after you've completed your first playthrough, you should go back, look things up, 100% it, and find all the cool secrets that are hidden inside the Hallow Nest. The footage you see in the background is of the arena in the game. It's one of the most difficult challenges, and seeing me fail over and over again will hopefully entertain you in some way, while I try not to spoil too much of the game. It will also show you some of the combat. I will every now and then make a cut to something I find important so I can demonstrate my points. Now, since Hollow Knight is a very non-linear game, and the middle ground of the game will be different for everybody, I'm going to structure this video in the following order: the starting area and the beginning of the game, exploration, combat and charms, NPCs, the mid/end game, the post game and the true ending, and my final thoughts. The starting area and the beginning of the game. When you begin the game, you're dropped down a big cliff with the only option being a broken door to your right. You smash it and learn to fight your first enemy just by experiencing it and without being told you know the basics of combat. You start collecting stuff that you will quickly realize is currency, and learn that the jump can be held down or quickly pressed for a high or low jump. You find an easy secret and a blue bug nest that gives you Binding of Isaac style soul hearts. You then break a giant door at the end and enter the Hallow Nest. This is the name of the ginormous underground bug city that you'll be exploring throughout your adventures. You start in the abandoned town of Dirtmound, where there is one NPC that talks to you and tells you about resting on a bench, which heals you and saves your progress. Afterwards, you'll explore the first area of the game. You'll find a few things that explain some of the game mechanics. These are in no particular order: the Stagway, the Cartographer, your first charm, the Black Egg, a few unreachable locations, Daddy Grub, the first boss, and finally your first magic ability. All these things teach you mechanics about the game, and because you just find them and experience them, you don't feel tutorialized at all, like in many other games. You can in fact deviate from this path if you know where to go. After you've beaten your first boss, and you've got your first magic thingy, you'll probably head back to Dirtmound, buy some things from the newly opened shops, and be able to update your map with the quill. This is where in my mind the tutorial of the game has stopped. But you won't notice that, because the tutorial is so invisible and good and fluent that if you know all this, you'll be done before you know it. The beauty of Hollow Knight's design shines not only in its tutorial, but also in its world. The world is amazing and looks like nothing you've ever seen before. The only thing that I don't like about the world is the somber first 2 hours of the game. Once you get into it, the game looks great and feels great. It has this atmosphere that just drags you in and gives you this great sense of wonder what'll be around the next corner. Places I especially liked: the Crystal Peak, the Kingdom's Edge, and the Resting Grounds. Not to say that the others were bad, I just think those stood out the most for me. The exploration and the setting. The exploration in Hollow Knight is simply superb. The game map naturally expands and is full of secrets. Super spoiler warning here. There are multiple unlockable and findable upgrades that let your little dude get into new places you thought you'd never see, and kill new enemies. As you unlock these abilities, the map gradually expands and you find more and more secrets. Because this is a Metroidvania game, the secrets are always useful. You'll find either charms, upgrades, optional bosses, new areas, challenges, or money. The best way to show you how many hidden things there are is to just throw some numbers at you. Now, there are about 46 collectible grubs, 16 mollusk shards, 2,400 S's divided up in about 100, 36 charms, 3 nail arts, 4 nail upgrades, 10 fast travel points, 9 vessel fragments, 41 tradable items, plus a bunch of shops to sell things, and about a million other interesting things you'll find. This is just a lot. The map is huge. Walking from one side to the other takes about 20 minutes to half an hour. There's actually a challenge that lets you do this without taking any damage. And as I've already said, the game is littered with secrets. Adding to that, the world is absolutely beautiful, filled with all kinds of bugs and insects that all have their unique style, not only in art form, but also unique attack, dialogue, thoughts, and movements. This makes everyone in the Hallownest unique and interesting. From the Mantis warriors that respect you if you've beaten their masters, to the City of Tears, with their social hierarchy and giant guards that protect their nobles. These people have a social hierarchy so interesting you want to know more about them, which you can do by killing them and filling out your journal that gives you lore about literally every enemy in the game. The combat. Cling clang, swing your nail around, do some jumps, hit some enemies, easy, right? No. This game can be balls hard sometimes, especially the later bosses and one area we'll talk about later. But how does it work? I'm going to spoil everything about the combat system, every unlock, everything. So if you do not want to know anything, you should just click off here. Okay, so you have a basic attack when you're on the ground. Left, right, up. The thing is, to give combat a bit more feedback, you bounce back after each hit you land. This way, you cannot just stand still and hit the attack button, you have to move. These are the basics of combat, and as you'll see, these systems just stack on top of each other and become more and more interesting. So the second thing you'll learn is that in the air, you can also attack downwards, onto enemies, spikes, and objects. If you do this, you get an upwards thrust into the air. This makes for very interesting ways to get around obstacles and avoid enemy attacks. The next thing that is going to come up is healing. You hold the button and your character stops dead. Using this ability heals you for 1 heart. You have to time this to make sure you don't get hit while healing and take extra damage. Healing also takes some of your focus. Now focus is interesting, since it's basically a mana bar that charges up if you hit enemies. This mana is also used to cast spells that I will quickly run through. You will have a magic blast sidewards that is used to attack enemies from afar. You have an upwards blast that does more damage and is used to attack annoying enemies above you. And a downward smash that attacks enemies below you, though it's mostly used for exploration and breaking stuff. Then you have a double jump and a dash that can both be used in midair and can be comboed. And finally, you have nail arts. These are charge up abilities that are by far the least satisfying thing in combat. You charge them up and you either do a great attack, a dash attack, or a spin attack. These are not very useful in general and can largely be ignored. The thing about the combat is, you can all pair these abilities with a dash and a double jump, and combining all of this makes for a truly unique combat system. But there is one thing that changes everything. Charms. Charms are equipable items that change your character in some way. Let me name some examples. You can get a defensive shield while healing. You can get area of effect damage, no blowback on your hits, ranged melee attacks, quick healing, more magic damage, longer attack range, quick nail arts, just to name a few. In the end, these are all things that change and combine to sometimes make for even stronger abilities. And all this changes the way you approach combat hugely. And with all of these systems together, there's loads of different ways to play. There's loads of builds you can make, and you can even overcharm yourself, taking double damage but getting extra notches to make sure you get that extra one ability in, which rewards very good players who are able to go without taking very many hits to maybe just overcharge for a little, because, you know, getting that extra damage or that extra range for your nail might be worth it. The mid to end game. Now in the mid to end game, you'll find out that you have to collect these 3 masks to enter the Black Egg. These areas are all hidden and have to be found in secret locations around the Hallownest, meaning you'll probably run into a bunch of interesting locations along the way. I'm gonna go over a few of these and explain what they do to hopefully give you a better idea of the game. First up, the Dream Nail. The Dream Nail lets you access creatures' thoughts and drains soul from them, the mana, used for healing and spells. It also helps you collect essence, the stuff you need to get rewards and to collect to get 100%. An interesting system that rewards exploration and gives you access to new certain primed bosses that are way stronger than they were the first round. Then we've got the Colosseum of Fools. This is a really cool combat arena that I wish had some more difficulty levels and was a bit bigger and expanded, maybe in endless mode. Though I must say the last mission of the Colosseum is almost unbeatable. It's just a tiny bit too fast. But I like the ideas they have and the way they push the game to its limits. Then we've got NPCs. Throughout the game, you'll find a bunch of NPCs either being useful by giving info or selling and buying stuff from you. All of these are super interesting and have their own backstory. Like for instance Zote. Once you beat him in some way, I'm not going to spoil, you'll get his journal entry. This is what it says. A self-proclaimed knight with no renown wields a nail carved from shell wood named Life Ender. Some creatures are so weak, so helpless, so inept and irritating that hunting them gives no pleasure at all. Thing is, first time you find him, he's in trouble, and you can help him and make sure he doesn't get killed, which later in the game gives you an interesting piece of advice. He gives you 57 pieces of advice, to be honest. Now I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to give you one. Precept 35. Up is up, down is down. If you fall over in the darkness, it can be easy to lose your bearing and forget which way is up. Then keep this precept in mind. For another instance from an interesting NPC, we have the Last Stag, a companion you find early in the game that helps the player get around by riding him around the Hallownest. He's an old creature that knows a lot about the Hallownest, and talking to him will reveal what he knows about certain areas. Once you've cleared all the stations, he'll bring you to an interesting area. He'll give you the option to go to the Stag Nest. This is where he was born and raised. This is hands down the most emotional I've gotten in the game. It's the perfect atmosphere for the once great kingdom that has now been abandoned. Once you've gathered the 3 masks, you fight the final boss of the game. And I think it's an excellent way to cap out. The boss is very satisfying and fair, and I wish they did more with him. The fight is quite short if you're a bit good at the game. Ultimate spoilers, do not watch if you do not want to be spoiled. The post-end game and the true ending. Of course, there is a secret ending, a real ending. Now, to find out how to get there, I advise you look for it yourself. Explore and find out. It's not that difficult, and that's what the game is all about. Exploring and combat. There is one part I will spoil though. Once you've used the awakened Dream Nail to go into the White Palace, I recommend you equip the Hive Blood charm, as it is vital to your success. I don't feel bad spoiling this, since it's pretty much a requirement. In the bottom right of the map, there is a place called the Hive. This is where you get the charm. Just make sure you've got that before you enter the White Palace, because you will be extremely frustrated. Now, the White Palace is a pure platforming level, focused on challenging you to the extreme. The thing I don't like about this level is that you have the limited health, and if you fail, you go back to the bench at the beginning. This is just annoying, and health regen should be just like basic here. Coupled with the fact that there are running buzzsaws, yes, buzzsaws, throughout the level that just get annoying to no end. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of the White Palace and having a pure platforming challenge. I just don't like the fact that you still have your normal health and stuff. They should have either removed the health altogether, made it a bit easier, added a few more benches, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't quite work, and they should have done something with the health system in this part of the game. After you've done this and a few other things, you can finally beat the real final boss, which is, in my opinion, not as well designed as the fake final boss. I just think the combat system works better on human-like enemies? I don't know, you had the same thing in Dark Souls, and fighting sword against sword just feels really good. Which is why I like the real final boss better than the actual final boss. Final notes. Hollow Knight is a superb game, full of charm and love. It is greatly polished, and in my game I've never encountered a single bug or crash. I love the game with all my heart. It draws great inspiration from Metroidvanias as well as Dark Souls, and in the end, it's just a very memorable game. I think there's a lot to learn from this game, and in my opinion, this is, in fact, an instant classic. If you've enjoyed this review, please rate, comment, subscribe, share, because that helps me a lot. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in my next review.